start with the post, though, Terry.
My name is Mackey, and I'm the lay leader this month. Welcome to this time to reflect and reconnect. We welcome people of all genders, all sexual orientations, all ability levels, from all faith backgrounds. We welcome you into this community of responsible, seeking, and justice-centered living. We invite, this is going to be a different service today. So we invite you to a time of reflection and thinking about all the issues that are going on today. For the opening words today, I chose a reading called Healing from Adam Dreyer from Love Beyond God. Don't speak to me of healing racism or wounded souls or the painful hurt until you are willing to feel the scars of my great-great-grandmother Laurie's back. Don't speak to me of values or justice or righting wrongs until you are able to feel the heartache of my great-grandfather Graham, whose father may have been his master. Don't speak to me of equity or opportunity or the common good until you're able to hear the fear for my grandmother May as the only black woman in her college. Don't speak to me of passion or longing or standing on the side of love until you know the shame felt by my mother Edwina, mocked by her teachers for the curve of her back. Don't speak to me of together or understanding or empathy until you know my rage as a young actor hearing the direction to be more black, more male. The pain we're trying to heal has no real name. This pain you speak of has no story. It is anonymous, vague, and empty. Don't speak to me of healing, for I heal the second I am ripped apart. My wounds like suture. And like the clever creature I am, I just grow new legs to outrun the pain ever faster. It is something I have had to practice for generations. Like that, feel like an eternity. So please don't speak to me of healing, because you cannot know what healing means until you know the hurt.
Karen, before you continue,
Song chosen today, 168, which is one more step. I will not sing it, but
the volume is kind of, can you hear me? Anybody? The volume is kind of low. Karen, can you hear me?
As I light the chalice,
Isn't-
please say with me, we gather this hour as people of faith,
Okay.
with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together. This is the time in our congregation when we take time to light candles for joys, sorrows. So do we have any candles that we want to light this morning?
We do. Karen, can you hear me?
I'd like to start
Nope.
by lighting a candle for George Floyd.
We lost the video. Can you hear me, Karen?
Um, there's a candle request from Amber for law enforcement and protesters across the country. She's not going to be here for the full service today because she is going to Omaha.
Okay, from Amber, for law enforcement and protesters across the country today.
And I don't have any other ones. We're trying to work on the volume right now.
I would like to light another candle for all the people who are hurting today. And if there are no other requests for candles, I would light one final candle. Yes,
I would like to light,
yes.
I have a friend. I have a friend who had a postcard on his doorway, and he's a character. And to see all this, and to realize that I've been Rip Van Winkle for this week, so I don't know what else happened. But it's a card that I guess you can send to people, a postcard. In our America, women are in charge of their own bodies. Science is real. Diversity is celebrated. Black lives matter. No human being is illegal. Kindness is everything. Love is love.
Bring it a little closer, actually. There we go. All right.
Thank you, Terry. Candle for that. And now if there are no further candles that people want to have lit, I will light one final candle for joys and sorrows that remain unspoken, but that may be thought of in the silence. May it be so. And now we will sing Meditation on Breathing, number 1009.
I'll play it down once. Do it through 3 times after that.
When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. Breathe in peace. I'll breathe out love.
Thank you for that, Terry. So now is the time in our service, if we were live, that we would be passing the plates, the collection plate for money for our church, and change for people in our organization, in our community that need assistance. It is still vitally important that we make our pledges and donate to change for change, because the need in our church and in our community has not changed just because we are now virtual. There is a way that you can donate online, but remember, if you can send a check to the church, that way we don't have to pay the fees associated with an online donation. So please remember to give generously to the church. I've chosen for reading today, Your Life Matters by Kenny Wiley. Most of us Unitarian Universalists are here because we felt welcome here at last. Some of us were too agnostic somewhere else. Some of us weren't vindictive enough somewhere else. We were too working class somewhere else. We were too lesbian somewhere else. We were too nerdy somewhere else too. Too introverted somewhere else, to be married somewhere else. Many of us are here because this faith and the people in it affirm you may not be perfect, but your life matters just the same. That's what's on the line now. Through racism and posthumous victim blaming, through silence and bullets and indifference and vilification, Black people are being told that our lives do not matter, or that they matter only conditionally. Black lives matter if we are educated, if we are respectful, and sometimes not even then do our lives matter. Right now, we as Unitarian Universalists are called upon to act. We are being called by our ancestors, those who demanded that we help end slavery, that we fight for suffrage, that we join the struggle to end Jim Crow. that we listen to and honor Black power. Lydia Maria Child and William Lloyd Garrison are calling us. Lucy Stone is calling us. Fannie B. Williams and Frances Ellen Harper are calling us. James Reed is calling us. Viola Liuzzo is calling us, guided by that enduring, unfilled promise of the belief in the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Ours is a faith that has said, or worked to say, to those who have been marginalized, you are a woman and your life matters. You are gay or lesbian and your life matters. You are transgender and your life matters. You are bisexual and your life matters. You have a disability and your life matters. You were not loved as a child and your life matters. You struggle with depression and your life matters. Right now, we are being called by our ancestors, by our principals, by young Black activists across the country to promote and affirm you are young and Black and your life matters. You stole something and your life matters. I've been taught to fear you and your life matters. The police are releasing your criminal record and your life matters. They are calling you a thug and your life matters. Our ancestors, principals, and fellow humans are calling on us to promote, affirm, with deeds and words, Black Lives Matter. The foundation of this country is on two separate but very related original sins. First, the genocide, the rape, and murder of millions of indigenous people, and the subsequent attempt to save the child and kill the Indian by putting millions of Native children, including my grandmother, in Indian boarding schools, all to steal this land we call America. The second was the enslavement of generations of Africans, free labor, to build this country. You know, first they tried making indigenous people slaves and discovered it didn't work very well to enslave people who were from the land where you were trying to enslave them. So it was actually easier and really cheaper to capture people and transport them thousands of miles across an ocean to a foreign land. This country's laws and policies have been used since its inception to subjugate people of color, be they Jim Crow laws, redlining, or our immigration laws, which have been built on a foundation of racism. In the 60s, this country was aflame with rioting. I kept thinking last week of a story my father told me about the Waterloo riots. Harold Hughes was the governor then. Governor Hughes had been a truck driver before he went into politics. He was a big, rough-hewn guy, but he could talk to anyone. So when the rioting started, he called up my dad. My father at the time was the head of Iowa's War and Poverty Program. He called him up and said, "John, we're going to Waterloo." And they climbed in their car, and the state patrol drove them to Waterloo. And then they walked alone into the riot. Left the car and the state patrol people and just went into the riot. And they met with a local political leader. She was a madam. They met in the kitchen of her bordello, talking about how to end the riot and how to make things better for the African American people in Waterloo. What governor would do that today? I'm not even sure it could be done now. But since this writing, I have been reading and hearing of political leaders attending the various demonstrations across the country. So good for them. They are trying. We've all seen the video of the killing of George Floyd. You know, I've played judo for over 40 years, which means I have choked and been choked literally thousands of times. We specialize in blood chokes, which looks like that's what was done to Mr. Floyd. A blood choke done effectively and efficiently only takes 3 to 5 seconds for the person to lose consciousness. But there is another way. You can choke a person not to subdue them, but to control them. And if you want to terrify them. I can tell you from personal experience that those kind of chokes are painful. What happened to Mr. Floyd was torture. 2 officers held him in place while a 3rd officer knelt on
this time. All right, so can you see the screen? And you can see the pulpit? All right, because I can't see the screen on her side, so... The pulpit? Okay, so I'm going to tilt a little to the... Is that a little more centered on the pulpit? Okay. Well, on her phone now, I can't see the screen with her stuff to see it playing live, so I'll be flying blind. And so we'll just have to go from there, okay? So as long as we can hear people and we can go, we're going back at it.
So
let's start from judo again.
While we're there, I'm going to see if you can hear me. I'm going to turn off the phone.
Okay.
Can you hear me, Carter? Can you hear me, Carter?
Check and see if you can hear the volume on his side.
Can you hear me, Carter? Okay, never mind. Go ahead.
The PA is fine. It's just that we got interrupted, and so we lost the connection, and then as a result,
was calling to borrow money, I'm sure. Candace Spray shouldn't come back.
Okay, go ahead.
Get through this fast before.
I know. Well, I thought.
Yeah, I have one friend that can't keep money back to save her soul.
That's refreshing to hear.
And so about once a week, we borrow $20.
You know, it's okay. They can see us. I just can't see anything on mine. So.
Okay, all right.
And Greg's supposed to be trying to.
It's okay. I can't. Can you hear me now?
Say we can't hear you, Greg.
Okay. All right. Fine. Just go ahead.
I'm gonna ask him if we're good to go.
And do I have to redo the whole judo choking thing?
Can you hear me now, Carter?
Or can I just start with the expiration of what
You know, I would say
I'll start with the
he says go ahead. I would say there's nothing like wrecking an emotional moment by having technical issues. It's like, oh, please hold your trauma. One moment, please. We're having technical issues.
All right, let's try this again for my
Emotional perseverance.
right. Well, and to explain to everyone, I have a friend who's very poor, who cannot save money for anything, and she is really, really poor, and she regularly calls me to borrow money. So I'm pretty sure that's what that call was this morning. So we're gonna have to get through this before she calls back, because it will happen. Mr. Floyd knew he was going to die, and there was nothing he could do to stop it except beg for his life. I've been choked, nearly unconscious, and it was not an efficient choke, so it took a while. It took a long while. But that was at a judo tournament with officials nearby to watch to make sure I didn't lose consciousness, and that if I did, to intervene immediately and revive me. Mr. Floyd had none of that. I can't imagine his terror. The civilians who were present will live forever with the image burned in their memories, questioning themselves, wondering if they could have done anything to save Mr. Floyd. They are traumatized. They likely could not have done anything and might have ended up dead as well. People, and by this I mean white people, seemed shocked by the killing of George Floyd. People of color weren't surprised. Well, okay, maybe a little surprised by the brazen and wanton disregard for life evidenced by the manner of his killing, with the full knowledge that the act was being recorded. But we're not at all surprised that yet another Black man has been killed at the hands of police. Obviously, that police officer was certain he could get away with murder. And for those of you who are wondering what third-degree murder is, it's what I learned in law school as depraved heart murder. When someone causes the death of another by an act so dangerous, so inhumane, that you clearly acted with a wanton disregard for human life. Some people are upset about the loss of property. whining and complaining that clearly the demonstrators are just thugs who didn't care about George Floyd's death. They prefer their demonstrations to be neat and clean and over before the curfew begins. They forget that in a demonstration of any size, there are always provocateurs there to harm the movement. And if you question this, you need to read up on FBI's COINTELPRO program. Does anyone really think that law enforcement put planting agents to cause mischief? Also, demonstrations involve human beings. Typically, who are like, they're so upset. They're so upset about an injustice against someone that they didn't even know typically, that they have taken to the streets. Think how upset you have to be to do that. And we know human beings are messy. They make mistakes when they are enraged. As Martin Luther King Jr. said, a riot is the language of the unheard. If you push people down far enough, they will explode. These people who like things neat and tidy, they lost their minds when Colin Kaepernick knelt in silent, respectful protest. I think what they really prefer is people of color who don't protest at all. These are the same people who are all about Stonewall, but they forget that Stonewall was a riot. Yes, a real riot, a real multi-day riot. A glass in the streets trying to set a building on fire after the police took refuge in it kind of riot. Queer people were actively trying to kill police. That's how the gay pride movement began, with a riot. And Jen has been sanitized 51 years later, so people forget the days of gay people rampaging in the streets. This country started with a riot. Has everyone forgotten the Boston Tea Party? Storming ships and destroying property. That's a riot. And judging from King George's reaction, he sure thought it was a riot too. White silence is violence. You must speak up. Allies are important in any justice movement. The one thing I kept noticing in the media coverage of the riots was the multi-hued nature of the crowd. It wasn't just Black people protesting this time, it was everyone. The protesters were literally of every race. You need to make sure your voice is heard, even when the demonstrations get messy. Demand justice. But those of you who are melanin challenged should take care not to fall into the white savior complex. You are not our savior. You are our allies. You need to educate yourself. People of color are not your teacher, but you are the best people to confront other white people when they start talking about all lives matter and that they don't see color and other such nonsense. I am tired. I am bone tired of seeing another person of color murdered at the hands of police. This has to end. Will some good come of this public crucifixion? I'm not sure, but God, I hope so. I would like to end with a reading by Reverend Rosemary McNatt, who is the president of Star King School for the Ministry. The truth is, if there is no justice, there will be no peace. If we cannot bring justice into the small circles of our individual lives, we cannot hope to bring justice to the world. And if we do not bring justice to the world, none of us is safe and none of us will survive. Nothing that we do is more important than making real justice here where we are. Hard as diversity is, it is our most important task. So for the closing song, we shall sing number 169, We Shall Overcome. Well, Terry will play it. Maybe I'll hum it. 169, We Shall Overcome.
By the way, I heard you started the church choir in here. Meditation breathing, thank you. If the router was fixed, could we dodge all kinds of problems if we had an up-to-date router?
We are back on now.
Okay.
Starting at verse 3.
Sorry, you missed all the good parts of the riot, folks. You'll have to go out and give it a try in person.
Thank you, Terry. This has been a somewhat challenging service. Oh my. Okay, we're gonna try to get through this before my poor Native American friend calls again, trying to borrow $20 from me. Okay, so this is an opportunity to go forth and live out our vision and values. I have two announcements. One is that this coming Friday at 2 p.m., starting at Cook Park, there will be another demonstration regarding the killing of Mr. Floyd. The individuals there, starting at 2 o'clock, you can tell young people have set up both of these protests because this one, like the previous one, has a long hike in it. They're going to start at Cook Park and then march to the police department. So you can join them at Cook Park if you feel up for a hike. If not, join them at the police station. So you can do either one of those. And then, so that's Friday next week. And then on Saturday, Siouxland Pride Alliance will be sponsoring a Cruising the Loop for LGBTQ Pride. We will meet at 1 p.m. on Saturday at Longlegs Family Rec Center. And some people will be decorating their cars. In fact, there will be a prize for the best decorated vehicle. And once we get all situated and squared away, then we are going to process over to Nebraska Street and do the loop a couple of times. We'll go up to 18th Street, and then turn, and then come down Pierce Street. So as I said, we're planning on scooping the loop twice, and then very likely afterwards, we may go to a food establishment and order takeout. And we're looking at trying to support some local small businesses with that.
So please follow the Siouxland Pride Alliance Facebook page and the church Facebook page for those updates. The other update that we want to give everyone is that typically in the summers pre-pandemic, we would normally join each other in the Safford room for our summer forums at 10 a.m., where we have part of our service and then we talk in person for the rest of it in a discussion over topics. Based on all the issues going around with COVID-19, we will be commencing those virtual for the month of June, and those will be done via Zoom. So we will be sending out the information for how to access those Zoom forums for the summer services here in the next week. You can reach out to us on the church Facebook page messenger or email the church for that Zoom information. And we will also have the Zoom coffee hour today after the service. The information for that is in the chat box on today's Cloudcast. And so you can get the ID and password there so that you can join us for the coffee hour after the service is completed.
Are there any other announcements?
Nope.
Okay. For the closing words today, I picked something from Maya Angelou. History, despite its wrenching pain, cannot be unlived, but if faced with courage, need not be lived again. Lift up your eyes upon the day breaking for you, give birth to the dream. Please join with me as I extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Service is completed. Go in peace and go out and change the world.